There's a war going on inside Europe, guys, and it's one that you are part of. Whether you like it or not, like most wars, you do not get to have a choice. But let me tell you one thing right now. In this video, I'm going to tell you how you can arm yourself, how you can do it safely, and how you can do it for the right reasons, protecting your family, your community, and yourself. I want to start off with showing you this picture. This happened in Austria. This absolute good for nothing, why is he still alive, young 23-year-old man has just killed a 14-year-old boy and injured 5 other people. This policewoman unfortunately has not done the right thing and killed him. He has one finger pointed up in the air there, and that is because this man has come from ISIS. That one finger there means we're number one, and it also talks about one particular type of ideology that ISIS follow. This is the story, and in this video, guys, what we're going to cover is what happened in Austria, also what happened in Munich with the car that went into the crowd, what JD Vance said in his speech. We're going to look at Islamic extremism all the way across Europe. We're going to listen to the UAE foreign minister. We're going to listen to an imam talking about it. I'm going to show you how we have basically allowed Muslim extremists in the UK to pretty much do whatever they want and leverage our tolerance, our acceptance, and our forgiveness as a Christian country in for their own gains. We're also going to talk about how blasphemy laws are coming into the UK through the back door. We're going to then pretty much how, look, we're being trolled by our own police constabularies throughout the country, and we're going to finish that just by talking a little bit about what you can do about it and how you can keep your friends and family safe. I'm not going to take long. I'm not really even going to go through these stories, but look, guys, 14-year-old boy has been knifed to death after a Syrian refugee randomly stabbed passers-by in the Austrian city of Villach today, leaving 5 others injured. You don't have a way of protecting yourself against this. This is like going back to the old IRA days that I was basically coming up through when I was a kid. The Warrington bombings, the Deal bombings. You could be in a high street, you just lose your life. That's how it is. This is exactly the same. Your family's walking around now, guys, with this thing unfolding literally on our streets, as it says here. Now, this guy I'm about to show you, he has a name, but I'm not going to mention it. If we go through the pictures very quickly, look at that. I mean, he's just killed someone. He's sat there knowing that he's going to be treated with kid gloves by Europeans who are we're just absolutely pathetic at this. You could be walking through there, that could just happen. This is how random it is, how we've allowed this all to come in. We've seen this in the UK, of course. We've seen this all over Europe, and it's just getting worse. Now, Deputy President then JD Vance has come to Europe, hasn't he? He's at the summit right now, the Munich Security Conference, and he basically jumps up on stage and just trolls the entirety of the audience like an absolute boss.
I want to say that, I was fortunate in my time here to spend some time outside the walls of this conference over the last 24 hours, and I've been so impressed by the hospitality of the people, even of course as they're reeling from yesterday's horrendous attack. We gather at this conference, of course, to discuss security, and normally we mean threats to our external security. I see many great military leaders gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America.
Now, during that conference then, as it says here, he spoke about internal threats to democracy. He also criticized the democratic legitimacy, pretty much, of, as it says there, the Romanian presidential election. As an example, he also spoke about freedom of speech concerns he had, especially about the UK. He criticized Greta Thunberg, as we all should as well, because she's just a school kid who knows nothing and has gone across to a Palestinian cause when the last one ran out. He talked about an inclusive dialogue, especially when it talks about populism, transatlantic relations, defense spending, and then he talked about some public figures as well, making, as I said, a few jokes about Elon Musk as well. So a very interesting way of coming and bringing something to Europe and saying, you guys better square yourselves away because this is no good for you anymore. And just so we're aware, that hand signal that guy was making, as you can see there, it's that #1 signal they make. So this guy, obviously, we look at that last story, is someone from ISIS. Now, the problem that we've got is, and I keep saying, guys, guys, the social contract that we have with our government. We've been let down. It's been broken. We don't know who these people are. These people are walking around the same street as your kids are walking around. That's what I'm getting at. This is why we've got to start thinking about our own security now. One thing I'm not doing is inciting violence. What I'm doing is inciting the protection of Englishmen in the United Kingdom, Welsh, Scottish, Irish. You do whatever you want with your people that are around you. And the Munich attack that Vance was talking about then was this one that happened the day before. So he comes to Munich basically having this just happened. 30 people were injured. I think a young kid and a parent has been killed in this since this article was written. So this happened on the 13th. He comes into Europe, gives his speech on the 14th about this event. And then as he leaves on the 15th, we've got that ISIS guy putting his finger up, having just murdered a 14-year-old and stabbed up 5 other people. Now, the UAE foreign minister, a guy called Abdullah bin Zayed, brings up some very, very good points here. Look, unfortunately, it's not the best recording.
There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
And yeah, absolutely. What our governments do, they don't listen to these people. Our governments think they know better. And let's listen to this Imam then, who also says something similar.
The other extremist groups, like the Muslim Brotherhood, who are friends with the IRGC and Hezbollah people, they cannot operate in Bahrain, in Oman. These are Muslim countries. Where do they operate? In London, in France, in Washington, D.C., in Australia, in Canada, Toronto. They operate here. They have bank accounts. They register charity. Right. So Macron, the president of France, recently said the Islamic world is in a crisis. I say, no, you are in a crisis. You went to the Muslim countries and you imported the garbage that the Muslim countries wanted to put in prison or isolate away from society. You went and you imported them. Why? For cheap labor. But these Islamist extremists, they don't want to work. They want free welfare. They want to marry French women, blonde hair, blue eyes. They don't have time to work. So look at Poland. They don't complain from Islamic extremism, not a single terrorist attack in Poland. The question is, Tina, did the extremists become stronger or the West become weaker? I say it's both.
How absolutely damning is this, guys? Listen, we are being hit. I'm just going to whack an advert in here for 2 minutes because someone decided to sponsor the channel. All right, absolute legends, because YouTube doesn't pay any money. Look, I use something called ground news, all right? And if you want to get unbiased news, or at least if you want to see how your news is being biased, then just watch this really quick 2-minute advert. Guys, the Ukraine-Russia story is still very prominent in the news, but are we seeing the full story? My wonderful sponsors at Ground News here, now I love these guys and I use them for all of my news. Now what they do is they piece together some amazing articles from publications all across the political spectrum, and you get access to every single angle that you could possibly need. Now let's take a look at this article concerning the Ukraine-Russian war. Trump threatens Russia with tariffs and sanctions if it does not agree to end the war. Now, Ground News shows that there is 378 articles here covering this particular topic. Now, the Kiev Independent is a little bit more left-leaning, shall we say, focuses here on the likelihood of the US sanctioning Russia if Moscow refuses peace negotiation. Now, the South China Morning Post, a little bit more centrist. They kind of focus on what will happen consequentially if Russia doesn't really follow through with the peace talks. And lastly, clicking on the right, the India TV News may take it in a completely different way, and looking at it is like a threat-based thing and what might happen if they don't actually make that deal. And I love their bias distribution panel here on the right hand side. It says that the majority of publications that have been covering this are right, with only 34% left. And if you look at this factuality table here, it actually tells you how kind of trustworthy each one of those sources actually is. Ground News is my only way of getting unbiased news, guys. So if you want to go and subscribe through ground.news/FJP or click the QR code you can see on the screen now, you'll get 40%, 40% off their top tier Vantage plan. That's the one I use to work out what's going on in this Russian-Ukraine conflict. Thank you for Ground News for actually sponsoring me on this particular video. And that Imam was absolutely right, wasn't it? I'm just going to show you something now. Look, we are being trolled by our police, and he's absolutely right. We've got weaker, the extremists have got a little bit stronger, but we've acquiesced to them because we want to increase the GDP. We want them to open up these barbershops. I did a video on that last time, didn't I? And here we have political strategist and analyst Amjad Taha speaking to Camilla Tominey. Very interesting what he has to say. Listen to this.
What's your analysis of the state of affairs in Britain? Because we've got the Labour government right now considering defining Islamophobia in a way that some say might open the back door to blasphemy laws.
I think you have more extremists in UK than you have in the Middle East.
Really?
At this stage, absolutely. The things that some of the Islamists say in various mosques, and we have been seeing that online, the terminology they use, the analysis they make, the statements they actually make, they would not be able to say it all the way in Afghanistan, for example, or in Iraq.
So how has this been allowed to flourish in the UK? What's your analysis of that?
In the name of democracy. So the Muslim Brotherhood, who are the Islamists, who are the main ones, are ruling and controlling in various press when it comes to the Muslim society and community in the UK. They control the whole narrative, and the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamists are the radical Islamists. They are the Islamists, and they use the freedom of speech in a manner where they will be anti-Semite in the name of freedom of speech. And once you allow that, on the 7th of October, for example, when it happened, the genocide against the Israelis, what I saw and what we witnessed is the fact that some Islamists all the way from here in Small Heath, in Al-Amrak, in Birmingham, and other areas, we saw their voices. It was pro-Hamas.
Yes.
And Hamas, as a force which carried that genocide in Gaza and also in Israel, it's actually the armed forces of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood in my country, for example, UAE, where Muslim, where Arab, is banned, but however, it's not banned in the United Kingdom.
So it should be banned?
Absolutely, because they use the freedom of speech to censor your right to speak against them. And when they say, they use the terminology Islamophobia, it's just to stop you from criticizing the Islamists and the Muslim Brotherhoods or all form of radicalism.
And this is why we're being trolled by our police. I've written down here. We're going to look at blasphemy in a second briefly. Look, police issue second mugshot of convicted female British ISIS terrorist after she complained that first picture showed her without head covering. There's the first picture that showed it. So they reissued it to this. I'm not even joking. That's what we're looking at. That's a mugshot. This is why we're being trolled by our police. This is awful that this sort of thing happens. It's amazing. I'm going to leave you with this story, guys, and basically I'm just going to talk about how you can arm yourself. Now look, 2 charged after Quran burning incident outside the Turkish consulate. If you do want to take up that Ground News offer, by the way, which is 40% off that top plan, you can see, you can put it on Google, or you can have it on your Google taskbar, and it tells you that this bias does lean right at the moment on this particular article. 2 charged after Quran burning incident outside Turkish consulate. There is a film I can't show you here of a guy burning a Quran and then another guy running up to him and trying to stab him with a knife and slashing away at him, and then he gets kicked on the ground. Now, interestingly, the guy who was actually burning the Quran, this Hamit Koskin from Derby, has been charged with religiously aggravated public order offence after he was filmed apparently burning the book in Rutland Gardens on Thursday. He was remanded in custody. This man then that was burning a Quran has been locked up. Now, the man that came out of these buildings here, this man came out of those buildings with a knife, started stabbing at him. It's a pretty awful film. I can't play it here. You'll be able to find it. He's been charged with causing actual bodily harm and possession of a defensive weapon. He was bailed. So this guy's walking the street. The guy doing the stabbing is walking the street. The guy burning the book is in jail. You tell me what's going on. It's a mad world. And because it's a mad world, guys, I'm going to just give you a quick brief thing about how you can arm yourself. Now, firstly, I'm not advocating the incitement of violence or anything like that. I don't want you going out and attacking people, but I want you to be safe. Back in the Victorian days, they used to use canes. A lot of these are not going to be legal in the UK, which is why this is an American website. But anything that keeps your distance from someone coming at you with a knife has got to be a good thing. Etsy, these are listed as defense canes. They look like walking sticks, but they may have a more solid point at the end. If the police get you with one of these, they may well do you for carrying an offensive weapon. It is at your risk. Do not have a sword cane. Some of these canes, the sword can come out. Now, if it's over 100 years old, you are allowed to carry those. If you start stabbing up people, you're going to go to jail. No end. There's very little on this on the internet, but if you get a newspaper and you roll it tight, then that can act as something, it's quite big, it's quite heavy. It obviously is paper, which is technically wood. It can help in keeping distance from you and an attacker. I was walking into a store the other day. There was some news by the entrance. I had a paper bag on me, one of those kind of heavy duty ones. I just kind of rolled it up as I walked towards them, sort of thing. Just rolling it up. I'm sure that they didn't do nothing. It was absolutely fine. But I've got something there that is, yay long. If I need to, I can keep some distance, or I can hammer them down on it. I'm going to leave this video now, guys. You know that I do care about people that follow this channel, and I want all the best for you. So remember, fitness, family, finance, and fuel. Keep good things going into your mind. I'm going to leave something for the ladies here, because of course it is illegal in the UK to carry pepper spray. And because you want our women and our children to be safe, then they can't obviously carry things that they can spray. Mace is not allowed, pepper spray is not allowed. I'd never advocate anything like that. But of course we do get a lot of injuries with the amount of sport we are playing, as I'm sure you are aware. And so for the dads out there, it's probably best that you get the women in your life some deep heat spray to deal with those muscle problems they have. I'm not even joking, guys. Just go and try it out. Spray some stuff in front of you and walk through this. Thank me later, guys. Stay safe. Tim Davies, Fast Jet Performance.